Women having trouble conceiving a child have often reached out to fertility clinics for help. But now a new breed of startup isn't waiting for the call. These boutique fertility operations are encouraging clients in their 20s and 30s to freeze their eggs to preserve the prospect of a future pregnancy. Not everyone is convinced this for-profit outreach is appropriate, though many clients are grateful they took up the offer.
I've always known that I want kids. I always tell everyone I'm destined to be a mom.
So when model Krista Mays found herself single in her early 30s with the goal of being a mom by age 35, she decided she'd have to find a less traditional approach than most to motherhood.
I was having a conversation with my girlfriends about egg freezing and fertility, and the conversation I had was like, I think I'm gonna do this. I don't know anything about it. I don't know what offices to go to. How do I look up on the computer fertility clinic that wants somebody like me?
She came across ads for Kindbody on Instagram, the fertility startup known for these bright yellow vans offering blood tests to measure the anti-Müllerian hormone, AMH, which is thought to be a marker of a woman's remaining egg supply.
When I found out that my AMH was at 0.78, which is low, I basically just kind of said, okay, what do I have to do?
Let's get your blood drawn.
Okay.
Mays went to have more testing done at Kindbody's New York City clinic. That's when she decided to freeze her eggs.
What was it like?
You just lay down on the bed, and then your anesthesiologist just, gets your IV going, and then before you know it, you wake up.
Doctors were able to retrieve 7 eggs, and with them, the hopes of a baby.
I'm feeling pretty good. Just woke up from anesthesia.
You've slowed your biological clock in a way, or you've taken your biological clock out of the mix.
Yeah. So, my eggs are,
They'll be 32
forever. So for me, it was taking the opportunity to ensure that I'll have children regardless of my relationship situation.
Kindbody is one of a growing crop of companies suggesting young women protect themselves against future infertility.
You don't do anything about fertility unless you're having a fertility problem. And we want to change that.
Founding physician Dr. Fahima Sassan talks to a packed room of young women at monthly Egg Freezing 101 events and says ads like this one, which say freezing eggs is like freezing time, are not misleading.
If your natural fertility is going to start to decline in your mid-30s, by freezing your eggs, you're giving yourself the gift of time. Egg freezing is not a guarantee to motherhood. However, in a woman who is having difficulty conceiving, if she happens to have eggs that are from her younger, healthier, better quality version of herself, it will be easier for her to get pregnant than if she, who is having fertility issues, tries to use her own eggs at that time.
According to the American Society for Reproductive Medicine, the rate of women between the ages of 40 to 44 becoming first-time moms has been rising since the early 80s. The reasons include careers, a less-than-ideal relationship status, or finances.
Do women in their 20s really need to be concerned with their fertility?
So concerning means I'm trying to scare you into something, and that's definitely not the process. I want you to be aware of it because I think that knowledge is power. That knowledge, bringing it to those 20-year-olds, allows them to make a decision that's right for them.
Gina Bartesi is the founder and CEO of Kindbody. At about $6,000, she says one egg freezing cycle here, not including medication, costs far less than at some major fertility centers and could mean more savings if a woman requires in vitro fertilization later.
If you measure the cost of having a child with your frozen eggs and you compare it to multiple failed rounds of IVF, every single time the one cycle with those frozen eggs yields a better outcome and a more affordable solution.
But not everyone is on board.
If there are issues, a reproductive endocrinologist should be the person that should be providing all this information to women and not entrepreneurs.
Dr. Pasquale Patricio is the director at the Yale Fertility Center. He worries about startups baiting young women with flashy ads and AMH testing.
For the great overwhelming majority of women in their young age, there is no reason to offer a single test that by itself is completely inefficient and only generates fear and panic.
But Dr. Sassan says Kindbody makes this clear. The initial test in the yellow van is not meant to be diagnostic.
AMH is a piece of the puzzle. Some of the other pieces are, one, just going over your medical history, and then a antral follicle count, which is a special type of pelvic ultrasound or sonogram where we can actually count the number of follicles, which are basically premature eggs.
There isn't much data on the long-term safety and effectiveness of planned egg freezing, especially when it comes to eggs that were flash frozen using a relatively new technique called vitrification.
The eggs are cooled at an ultra-rapid rate to negative 196 degrees Celsius.
One 2017 study suggested a 34-year-old woman with 20 frozen eggs is expected to have a 90% chance of having at least one live birth. A 42-year-old is expected to have a 37% chance. Krista Mays says she's likely to go through 2 more rounds of egg freezing because she's hoping for more than one child.
My goal that I've talked to about with my doctors is freezing 20 eggs. It is an investment, but I felt like it's a justified investment.
And an important one to you.
Yeah, this is my backup plan. If I don't have a partner and I can't do it the natural way and the free way, my next option would be to do this.
My biggest takeaway from talking with all these women and some other young women is they want to know their options, and they're just not hearing this from their doctors that this is an option. It's expensive, but what they're hoping at Kindbody is the more that start to do this, more insurance companies will get on board, and that changes things.
Super expensive insurance policy, but 25 years ago, this was not available to a lot of women, and, you know, availability, opportunity, always a good thing.
Makes a lot of sense.